Ready to go.
All right, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Matt Griffin from the Thad Cochran National Warmwater Aquaculture Center at the Mississippi State University. Sorry, he's a friend to many of us in this room. Probably needs no further introduction, but we're excited to hear about his research program down there on the Delta. Take it away, Matt.
All right. Thanks, Nick, and hopefully everybody can hear me. We've got a couple different laptops and other things going right now. So um, anyway, thank you all for coming out. Thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you all for supporting the seminar. Thank you, Nick and Megan, for giving me a slot. And I just realized now I've got the wrong date on that title slide, so my apologies. But really, it's great to be here today, and I want to thank all the sponsors for making this possible. I want to thank the section for supporting what we're trying to do here, and absolutely thank you to the students and PIs for making this seminar what it is. And it's really pretty humbling for me to be sharing this same platform with all the students who have just really been giving fantastic presentations throughout this seminar. And obviously everyone's doing great work, so keep it up. And thanks to the PIs for giving them the opportunities to do so. Yeah, I know a lot of you, but for those of you that don't know me, I did my undergrad in the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. I was introduced to fish health and aquatic parasitology by the late Dan Sutherland. Dan always kind of said if you were going to be a fish parasitologist or a parasitologist, you needed to work with fish because they didn't smell as bad as the terrestrial animals. And to be honest, he was a pretty smart guy, and that's a good bit of advice. I'm sure Graham and Ethan and some of the other parasitologists in the room may think otherwise, but fish parasitology was really something that kind of cranked my tractor a little bit. And so after I finished up at Wisconsin, I headed down to join the lab with the late Linda Pote and her parasitology lab at the Mississippi State University College of Veterinary Medicine. I was co-advised there by Linda and Al Camus. Al Camus at the time was the director of the Aquatic Research and Diagnostic Lab at the Thad Cochran National Warmwater Aquaculture Center. After a few years, Al took a position at the University of Georgia, and in his absence, I fell under the guidance of Dr. David Wise. I was very fortunate to have three who I consider very fantastic mentors or PIs and advisors. And if anybody ever wants to hear some stories about Linda, I'm happy to tell them. She was a pistol, and so she's sadly missed. But anyway, that once I graduated and finished my PhD, that turned into a postdoc position at NWAC, which turned into an assistant research professor position at NWAC. And 20 years later, I'm here talking to you fine folks. I should mention I also met my wife working in Linda's lab. So, all in all, the decision to come to Mississippi State University worked out pretty well for me. So just to give you guys an idea of the National Warmwater Aquaculture Center, it's a multidisciplinary, multi-institutional research and extension program. We're located in the heart of the catfish industry in Stoneville, Mississippi. I realize that's probably a debatable statement, but we're within probably about a 40-mile radius of a large section of the catfish farming region in Western Mississippi. And the mission of the NWAC is to provide solutions to the most pressing problems of the aquaculture industry. So we're largely stakeholder driven. When the producers identify issues, that usually dictates our research goals and mission. We're a cooperative unit with the USDA Warmwater Aquaculture Research Unit. We're comprised of Waru scientists, MAFIS scientists, and MSU CVM. And the extension activities largely focus on the dissemination of our research-based information directly to the aquaculture industry. And we have pretty good relationships with a lot of the producers, which allow us to take a lot of our research findings directly on farm. The physical resources of NWAC, it's a 3,000 square meter office laboratory building, 500 square meter aquaria building. That aquaria building contains 500 or so 20-gallon aquaria, about 130-gallon aquaria, We have a BL2 general microbiology, immunology, molecular biology laboratories. We also have a pond facility that consists of almost 300 ponds ranging in 0.1 to 8 acres. We also have a raceway facility that consists of 14 5,000-gallon raceways. And then we're a fully operational farm with a pond manager, a night crew, you name it. We have all the equipment needed to run these experimental pond studies. So again, we have the ability to take what we find in the lab, which is pretty, extremely controlled environments, and take that to the ponds. And so, before we release a lot of our information to the industry, we're able to validate it in simulated industrial conditions. Our research focus is really diverse. I have a hard time kind of categorizing our lab and what we do, largely because the issues of the day can change, and so you can head down one role and you think this is what your research path is going to be, and a new problem emerges, and suddenly it's all hands on deck, and we've got to start looking at other issues. We do a lot of trematode work. Bulbophoros damnificus causes significant losses in catfish, so we do a lot of work on mitigating the snail host, right? Trying to find ways to break the life cycle that way. My PhD work was on Hennegai ictaluri, which causes or hamburger gill in catfish. And so we do a lot of work on that. That's still an extremely enigmatic parasitic problem, parasitic disease for us. We've done a lot of life cycle work and identification of some of the other digenetic trematodes that are present in catfish ponds. These ponds they're shallow, they're closed environments, right? And there's snails are abundant. And so as a result of the snails, the piscivorous birds, and the fish all being in real close proximity to each other, it's really a perfect environment for trematode life cycles. So we do a fair amount of work on the digenetic trematodes. We also probably, my training was really as a parasitologist with Linda, but that has evolved really. We do a lot of bacteria work now. We work with a large amount of bacterial pathogens of temperate and warm water cultured and wild fish. However, probably the majority of our work really focuses on the Edwardziellas. Those are the predominant issues for us in the Delta, and so that gets a lot of our research attention. We also dabble in virus a little bit. Arun Venugopalan was a PhD student with us, and his primary focus was the alloherpes viruses, the ictaluric herpes viruses, and so that kind of opened the door for us to get involved into that work, working with Larry Hansen and Tom Walczyk and some others. So kind of a jack of all trades and a master of none. We know a little bit about a lot of things, but it does keep things interesting and makes it kind of fun to come to work every day. Our research focus really also covers a pretty wide net. We do a lot of the molecular stuff. We used to do a lot of the rep PCR DNA fingerprinting, and we've kind of gotten away from that a little bit just because next gen sequencing has made it so much easier to characterize, the bacteria pathogens through sequencing versus the cumbersomeness of trying to run all of these gels. But we do a lot of the, PCR development. We do a lot of vaccine development, working on pathology and infectivity models, development of molecular assays, genomics. We've recently entered into the realm of metagenomics and microbiome work, largely with the addition of Caitlin Older with the USDA WARU, who brings that level of expertise to the table. Genomics, working a lot with Jeff Wallbeazer, and it's been, we have the ability to do a lot because we have so many different areas of expertise that are present in the NWAC building. And so we can cover a lot of ground that way. So we do a lot of the molecular phenotypic characterization of emergent pathogens. In terms of field work, a lot of pond monitoring, helping out the farmers in terms of response to disease outbreaks, helping figure out what's going on. Trematode checks is one that we've done for years. That's pretty labor intensive, but producers will give us a call. Their ponds just aren't eating right. We'll come out and help them examine their fish stocks for the presence of trematode. We've gotten pretty good at eDNA methods in being able to use eDNA for pathogen monitoring in the context of catfish aquaculture. Cindy Ware, who I'm going to mention here in a little bit, I think she runs, probably 600 pond samples a year. And that's in, a 24-hour turnaround to estimate the abundance of the H. ictaluri spores in the water. And that helps producers, determine whether their ponds are safe to stock in the spring. So, from March to June every year, Cindy's pretty busy. And, I think we've got a pretty good handle on that. Then we do a lot of life cycle studies too, just trying to figure out where some of these parasites are vulnerable, identifying the intermediate hosts, and identifying areas where we can prevent their transmission to the catfish. Part of the reason our work is so diverse is because we've built an extremely collaborative network, and I realize I probably have inadvertently left some people off. So if you're in the audience and your name's not there, I apologize. Let me know. I'll buy you a beer sometime. But, we do a lot of work with the USDA ARS, obviously with the MSU CVM, which is our home department, MSU Wildlife Fisheries and Aquaculture, UC Davis, Esteban, Al, Tom Locke at Michigan State, Roy and Cootie and their group at Florida, Rod Getchell at Cornell, Montana State University, Frank Stewart and Zoe Pratt have joined our collaborative group. We're happy to work with them. Obviously, Nora, who's going to speak to you here in a little bit, is co-funded through St. George's University and Dave Morancic there. Obviously, Auburn University, and I mentioned Tom Walczyk earlier. Part of the reason we're able to do as much as we do is because we work with so many, really strong and transparent collaborators. And I know there's a saying that floats around the internet. You see it on LinkedIn and all that stuff all the time, where it talks about, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And fortunately for me, that's usually not the case. But I think for the students and folks, early career folks that are out there listening, surround yourself with people that know more than you do. Inevitably, there's going to be people out there that know more about a subject or know more about a technique or can bring something to the table that you can't. Find those people and learn from them. And man, good things happen. And one thing I've learned is people want to help. They want to hear what you're doing. They're interested in what you're up to. And if they can lend a hand or if they can provide some support, most people will. So don't be hesitant to reach out and learn new things from people that have probably more experience than you do. I couldn't be as successful as we have been without the hard work of the many graduate students that have come through the lab. I've been very, very blessed. I'm biased. Obviously, I think all of my students are top shelf and exceptional, but a lot of the guys and gals that have come through our lab have received recognition outside of my appreciation. Graham Rosser and Ethan Woodyard have been named Mississippi State Graduate School Hall of Fame winners. Arun, Abby, and Divya won, Best Student Presentation Awards in Chile. I know now as I'm starting to rattle these off, I know I'm gonna forget some and I should probably move on. But anyway, I've been real impressed with the work that the students have done. And it's a very diverse group and it's a very hardworking group. And Ethan and Jonah, for those of you that know, they're graduating here soon. So if you're looking for some hard workers, reach out to them. And then last, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Cindy Ware, who has managed my lab for the last 13 years. All of the students that have come through the lab have received training and support from Cindy. She's the one that really makes herds the cats and makes everything work. And I realize I'm now running long, and so I'm gonna wrap this up real quick and turn the floor over to the students. But I wanted to give a shout out. I told Wade I'd give a big blurb for the Western. If you haven't already registered, I think there's room still available. Abstract submission is still open. Hopefully we'll see you all in Idaho. And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Divya. Thank you all for your time.
Thanks a lot, Matt, for the overview. The capacity and facilities down there, always impressive. Okay.